Ha! And we are live.
Hey, Manuel.
Michael, it's good to see you.
So good to see you too.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to do a Terra Prime session this morning on this cold winter morning, December 29th, 2022. As you may know, my name is Manuel Montoya. I'm a member of the Terra Prime team and one of the developers of the Terra Prime conversation deck. I'm very pleased and excited to be in the virtual room with Michael Metal Wheatclaw. He is the founder and owner and proprietor of Metal the Brand and Metal the Store. Michael, tell people a little bit about Metal the Brand and Metal the Store for those that aren't familiar with your work, which they should be.
Thank you. Metal the Brand is my personal art as well as the art of other people. I screen print, I make stickers, just fun art that ranges from New Mexico related merchandise to weird lowbrow art, anything with tentacles or really big teeth.
And that's how we became buddies. As those of you that have known me long enough, or even if you don't know me, I'm a squid dude. So my students call me the squid professor. So there's a lot of intersection. And in fact, I own one of the metal hooded sweatshirts. I encourage you. Let's give a plug to Metal the Brand. How can people purchase your products, Michael?
Metalthebrand.com, or I do the downtown growers market and the rail yards market in Albuquerque during the regular vending season.
Perfect. And we're going to get started today. I'm very grateful because Michael has purchased a pack of our Terra Prime decks. And as is with those who buy larger decks, they're always invited to join on to our YouTube channel to have a conversation with myself or another member of the Terra Prime team. I'm lucky enough to be able to do this one with Michael, but please tune in, like and subscribe for anybody interested in the series of Terra Prime Conversations. 2022 was a slow start, but 2023 is going to ramp up quite a bit for Terra Prime, and looking forward to archiving many of the wonderful conversations that we have and have had with people. There's a couple that are coming up very soon that are with a wide range of people, including a local high school from back home in Mora. There's going to be a few with people you wouldn't expect have bought Terra Prime decks, ranging from hospital executives to local artists to musicians. There's a bunch of different things that are in the works for 2023, so I'm excited about this. But I have been a big fan of Metal the Brand for a long time. I think it's a beloved part of Albuquerque's art scene and also our commercial networks within the city. So please visit them and enjoy the work that Michael and his artists do. Let's get started. So one of the things we do with our conversations is we try to make sure that they're not as staged as possible. We like the conversations to be organic because that's the whole point of the deck. The deck, again, is 28 cards. These cards are different themes or lenses with which you can see any given problem that people want to talk about, anything ranging from a movie you've just seen to a contemporary political issue that you want to talk through. So I do have my screen up here for our social media. If you want to buy some of our cards, please go to terraprime.com to our shop, but also pay attention to @TerraPrimeCards on Facebook and Instagram. And also I have a Terra Prime section on LinkedIn if for those of you that are interested in using this in a professional manner. So anyway, let's get to it. Michael, the challenge is up to you to come up with a topic, and we're going to do it old school. We're going to do a back and forth roundtable
mode
style. Yeah. So
yeah.
What kind of topic were you thinking about in anticipation of this?
So the hot topic in art and merchandise right now is AI generated images from text. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that one up. Yeah. That's a big issue. It is a huge issue. It's going to span any number of issues, legal, cultural, political. Yeah, artificial intelligence and the development of of images, even poems. I've seen an AI generated poem producer, and it was quite interesting to see, and a little shocking to see how much it drew from various works. What got you thinking about the topic just before we get started with the cards?
So being a creative and trying to find new and better ways for your process, because art as a process is very difficult. I mean, when you first start doing it in college or as a young creative, your palm is to your forehead a lot. You're trying to like pull from your memory or try to pull from an amount of originality, which, frankly, it doesn't necessarily exist anymore. All the great artists, let's just talk about like the history of art for a moment. There are two major inventions that changed art. One is the lens. The second is the mirror. You see a drastic contrast from idealized religious forms in art into kind of fuzzy photographic qualities to realism like you've never seen it. And it didn't just happen because the artists like evolved to that. There were tools available to them. And as a creative, I have sort of shed my skin of sort of like pulling all of this masterfulness just from yourself, because you have to use the tools around you. And this is a new tool. And also being a musician, the first time I was exposed to AI, being a creative, was an AI creating a Nirvana song, like a new Nirvana song. Mm-hmm. And they didn't, it sounded just like something Kurt and them would do. And you think that, if you can quantify all the different parts of what makes something popular, what makes something desirable, and you're able to artificially create it quickly, what is the percentage of uncanny valley? Like, what is going to be acceptable, what is not, and can it be used as something to get you on the path to generate something that does have a soul? Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. Let's jump right into it then. I don't like to steal anyone's thunder, so you have the 25 cards available to you.
I do.
They work best with physicality, but since we're doing it on dialogue, I can switch through the cards for the benefit of our audience. So which card, you're first. So which card would you like to draw to talk about this topic?
Obviously, I'm going to go to the easiest one. Let's go to card 16, the automaton.
There we go. I love it. Yeah, so card 16 is the automaton, labor, work, and technology. Let's go to the prompt in the back, and let's check out the main prompt. For those of you having a conversation and getting started with it, the prompt at the very top is a way to get started with the conversation. And so we can go, I'll read it briefly. Civilization consistently struggles with the desire to do less with getting more. We have a strange relationship between labor and leisure. Furthermore, there is an inherent dignity in human labor that is the basis for most of our economic and political struggles. The value of our work affects us at the cellular level and at the societal level. What happens then when we find a way to automate what once took a great deal of work and effort? Stage is yours, Michael.
So, I mean, the first thing you think about is, where's the source material coming from for this AI generation? And it's the internet. It's databases of work that, could be copywritten material, could be, because older material previous to 75 or 100 years is just open game. And especially with your interpretation of it, which doesn't take much to take something old and do that. But to give an amount of wording and get a product immediately is detrimental to the livelihood of artists. It's detrimental to what we call the classic creative process of making a mood board, getting because what it does is it takes that process and makes it a split second. Like, because when I think of something, or it depends on what it is, but let's just say I have a concept of something I'd like to give to the world, or a message. I have to have a mood board. I have to get a lot of references, put them up, and sort of, through my own personal experience and with these references, create something that it's a process that takes time. Someone else can make it a lot faster. And if that pertains to a product or a brand, that if it moves at that lightning amount of speed of production, and if something trends, and that's another thing in art, trending, you have to look and see what the trend is. So if you're able to take the trend and do all of that very quickly and make the product, it takes out a group of artists. Now, that's natural selection in its own type of way. I mean, we all have to utilize tools, and imagine people, and let's talk about, no, I don't know if we can talk about that. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So let's talk about going to college. So previous to the internet, it was hard. Like, you had to either have the will to really get into that library, get the references, get the information, and get your mind to a place where you're able to facilitate whatever service skill that you want to do. So then you have the creation of the internet. And I believe that at that point, the qualitative measure of a university or institution of higher learning, went from qualitative to quantitative, because you can bring in more people. And it depends, because I'm generalizing that in the sense that there are people that want to go for the higher skill set or a type of learning that isn't necessarily accessible by everyone. But then you have an amount of people who are like, I need to get the piece of paper. This sort of interests me, but it's something that isn't law or medical or something of a higher learning skill set. Hold on, let's see. I'm trying to round this about real quick. Let's see where we're at. But yeah, that's basically it. Just automating stuff, like, from cotton by hand to the cotton gin, you're eliminating an amount of workforce, or maybe an amount of dignity from a person that found meaning. And yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna counter that with the card 11, card 12, which is the Black Swan, which is aura and unpredictability. And when we think about some objects, there's more special than others. They may have been a gift from a loved one, or maybe they became special over time and because of the way that they were used. So sometimes the world changes because something rare or unexpected happens. It changes the way we think of people, places, or things. And in each of these cases, there's something unique about those things or moments, something that philosophers have called aura. Now, that thing aura is important to me in this conversation, because based on what you said, for our own convenience, we have done so many things that have eliminated the middle section of point A to B. We do so much that eliminates the middle section, but right in the middle is actually where the work is. What do people say? It's not the destination, it's the journey that matters. And that's where artists actually situate themselves, right? Like, this is one of the most important parts of this topic of AI generated images. I was blown away with an image, and in fact, a member of the Terra Prime team sent me an AI generated image of our first card, which is a reproduction of Hieronymus Bosch's The Garden of Earthly Delights. And it was just kind of a total recreation done by an AI generated image. And it was astounding how detailed it was. And but what bothered me, and it was the question that when you first brought up this topic got into my head, was, can a machine learn? And that becomes one of the I think the sensitive topics or issues with this issue, right? Because I've heard arguments from a couple of people that the machine itself is simply doing what an artist does. Like, you as an artist, you learned from something. My grandfather was a carpenter, and I learned how to do certain things in woodworking from him, and then I applied it. And then somewhere in between there, I copied him, because that's what I did. Or an artist who's training to paint on acrylic will try to do Caravaggio, and will try to do, use chiaroscuro, or try to use some sort of technique that another artist used in order to get to that point to earn their bona fides. And then later on, they use that. The argument is that a computer is basically doing that they themselves are also learning. And so when they're applying something, what does it actually mean when a computer is applying what they know versus what an artist knows? And that bothers me for many, many reasons, because the economic effect, like you've pointed out, is that artists are losing their livelihood as a result of this. This is actually a perfect recreation of the book Player Piano by Kurt Vonnegut, which is basically the piano player has been taken out of the equation, and there's the tragedy of the loss of the human inside of this. But is there an aura to machine work? And I'm not convinced there is. That's why I love craft objects. That's why I love things that are made by hand and made by people, because you can mass produce any number of images or objects, but they're only special given the special context or the circumstances whereby they're made. And half of the stuff that I own, thankfully, I'm in a place where I can have something handmade versus something that is not necessarily that is mass produced. And if I have a handmade object, I have a story that's attached to it that gives me that aura and gives me a way of participating in the context of why that object exists in the first place. So I really think that the automaton is there and the black swan is there in this problem, and we're just touching the tip of it, because this is going to have massive ramifications for the way that society's work is going to play itself out.
Another aspect of this card is that over the test of time will be consumer preference. Like, there will be a differentiation between the two. As much as, like, sometimes I can't see the uncanny valley and whatever it is that's being generated, but again, it's a tool and will be used many different ways, and how consumers respond to it is really how it will define itself in the future.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. On that note, go ahead, pick another card. Let's do another couple rounds, and then I'm going to challenge you with a card, and then you challenge me with a card. That's
okay.
For.
So a card that really struck me, and it was one of the most subtle ones, is the Alien Gaze, card 21. So from an outside perspective, coming completely out of a black room and being taken in by this technology and taken in by its product, what does it say about us? With AI, they have to pull from somewhere. And if you're familiar with all of, like, the AI bots that were made that are on Twitter, they take in the internet and then they sort of rationalize what reality is based on the internet. And the internet is it used to be more of a Wild West, but now it's just, there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of really weird things. So a case in point is a journalist that I read an article on. She typed in Asian woman, and it literally just shot out pornography. Like, that was its interpretation of what those words were. So in the context of all the things in the morals and how society looks at certain subjects, how does it interpret it? And then if that is being seen by other people or entities, what does that say about us, and what are we supposed to do? Or at least that's how I interpreted the card.
Yeah, no, that's precisely right. I mean, the internet itself has already produced a system that looks up above us. We've done that. We placed all the information that is transcendent of us above us. It's not at our service. It exists also as this entity that can look down on us, and it changes the way that we behave and the way that we think about these problems, right? There was a kind of a sense of marvel that I had when I saw, just like anybody sees a new technology, we have this kind of way of looking on high at it as seeing it was given to us by the gods or something like that, right? And we get this, we behave accordingly, right? we behave accordingly when we don't realize that these are the tools that we created, and it's the reverse, actually. And we're now creating this mythology of the awesomeness of these AI bots that is going to be really, really problematic. It makes me think also of the myth of John Henry. I used to watch the old John Connor Chronicles, the old Terminator TV show, which was tragically taken away from us way too soon. I think it was a great TV show. Sarah Connor Chronicles, right? It was
okay.
Yeah, it was the TV show with Cersei Lannister, Lena Headey. She was Sarah Connor, and she was awesome. But there's an AI that plays chess, and it becomes so sophisticated that it starts to become the Skynet in the Terminator mythology that starts to undo society and civilization. And they call the AI John Henry. And I don't think that's a mistake. Like there's this kind of connection between kind of John Henry, the mythology of the man who was able to work on the railroads and compete with the machine to be able to kind of lay the rail line. And that's the humanizing part of it. And then there's the story of John Henry, the God, right? The creature on high, that then we kind of look on after the fact and we say, look, there's this, this person has become not a person, but a legend. And we do that almost immediately with technology, and it actually produces an alien gaze. So I'm down. I'm very hip to that. That's a really cool observation.
That sort of itches on me that, so when you think of like the Nike logo, it's super powerful. Even like if you didn't have the years of it being reinforced into your brain, by seeing that, it has a flow to it. It gives you an emotion. So if that can be generated, and brands come out all the time. Well, there's brands, there's story, anything that can be sold and it have an image represented is enough to think, what is that future look like? And are people going to respond so well to something creative and created in that way? Because before, like, you take organic elements of anything, the spiral, the star, something that gives an amount of motion or pride, or relates to an element of some kind of universal pride. So yeah, something to think about.
Or even universal recognition, like what happens when these objects become gazers, when we elevate them to the point where they can watch us. Like, you terrify me when you say that Nike actually has become a thing that watches me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It watches me, and it's we've done that. We've allowed John Henry to become legend. We've allowed Nike to become legend. They watch us now, and it's now. We don't even realize how much our behavior has been changed as a result of that, but it takes away a lot of our self-determination. And in fact, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go with the Leviathan card.
I knew we'd go there because you have to understand it. If we're vilifying it, we have to understand it.
Right. I mean, the Leviathan card is the sovereignty card and the self-determination card. And so the short and pretty of it is that the Leviathan's a giant sea creature, so great that all seafarers feel small in its presence. And the awe and wonder it inspires us is what Thomas Hobbes, who wrote the book Leviathan, argues is the foundation of our sovereignty, the ability for any group of people to make decisions on its own behalf. So if that's true, how often have you heard groups of people defend their right to self-determination, but do it under the guise of an image, right? And what makes us willing to die or kill for certain groups that we belong to? We're going to turn into groups here. We're going to become Luddites. Some of us are going to become Luddites. We're going to actually formulate groups of people. I mean, I hate to say it, but we draw these boundaries very quickly, and there's going to be some people be like, I hate anything that's AI generated. I hate it. I hate all technology. I'm going to keep the lights on. We have extreme versions in society of groups of people that organize out of the idea that technology is a threat. And then there are those people that are just fully acolytes of technology, and they're going to be the tech bros of society that are going to make us love it no matter what, and we're going to follow them blindly. And then somewhere in the middle is everybody else, most people. But to what extent is that shaping the society that we want to belong to, and actually giving us a reason to believe in the greatness of what we belong to? I could imagine that any number of places. I mean, I think about even here in New Mexico, the landscape here in New Mexico is one of the reasons that I love it. I love Sandia Mountain. I love the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. They're a part of the reason that I give up part of myself to belong to the places I belong to. And just like a beautiful piece of art or a big building like the Taj Mahal or the Eiffel Tower, those things become the images whereby we associate our sovereignty. Our AI generated images capable of producing that level of awe and wonder to which we belong, that is going to become an ingredient to how we belong to a given community. Is that the future? Are we going to worship at the feet of an image that was created by an automated system?
We already do it. But I mean, Van's logo is made by a person, but we worship that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Hey, I'm a worshiper of Metal the Brand. Let me just
Thank you. And you're a fan of the metal, the brand that's the like the weird, like my core stuff, like the stuff that I have out that people are like, tell me about that. And then they get the image proverb of it. You know, it's something when you battle as an artist, you got to do what people really relate to and is sort of a popular thing. And then there's the stuff that, you know, really satisfies that itch as a creative.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
appreciate
No, no, no. It's I love artists and I love people who do, especially artists who delve into and embrace the both the popular and the esoteric part of the quirky and the weird. Like that's the place where I want to dwell. I mean, I always said Guillermo del Toro, if he'll let me live in his bathroom, like I totally would just kind of move in and just hang out. I mean, he's good with doors, so like if he built me like a gilded door for like one of the broom closets that he has in his house, like I'll just live in there, just feed me
yeah.
snacks
Yeah,
every
please. Please.
uh, yeah, this is actually the turning point. This is where politics intersects with a problem that we can casually discuss, but we already realize it's already become a fabric, a part of our political consciousness. So I like we're there. I'm gonna let you pick. Do you want to do
Let's go to challenge mode right now.
perfect?
Because, Manuel, you have stumbled into my trap card. The zombie.
Oh no.
Card 23. Go.
I love it. I love it. Oh, look at that guy. God, he's my inner soul. This guy. Look at him. He just it's just the plague doctor. He's hanging out. He's just kind of staring out inside of me, staring back at you. Plague and contagion. This is a rough card. I mean, even when we were developing it, we were, it was during COVID that this all came to fruition, and we don't even really need to go there, but that's a good challenge. That's a really good challenge. So I'll read the prompt.
Hardest card to really interpret.
I think so. I mean, it's one of them. It totally is one of them. And just for our audience, I'll read the prompt and just kind of go through kind of the main theme of the card. So zombies are a very powerful version of a plague mythology. Plagues have been around as long as human beings have, and the story of contagion is very powerful. Again, COVID, we don't really need to talk about that, because a seemingly invisible force is able to cross the boundaries that people place on themselves and others. In some cases, stories of the plague are used to challenge the resilience of the state. They can also be used to destroy boundaries between individuals and assumptions we make about societal norms and cultural values. Well, there's two things that I start to think about, right? One of them is that it's in that question to think about what happens to our institutions when they're revealed to be helpless or vulnerable beyond control. And AI technology almost immediately reveals the vulnerabilities of institutions, of what happens when we commercialize artistic objects. Because in a way, we are actually, I always lean on the side that somebody's art is priceless. The starting point is already that it's priceless. It has to participate in the profanity of the market, because we all live and we all eat and we all shit, frankly. Like it is all kind of, that is the level it's working on. But at another level, it is priceless. And I think the vulnerability of artists are already vulnerable in the work that they do. They put themselves out there. They put a very, very special part of what they interpret in the world out into the world, which is why I love artists so much. But also AI, because of the way it accelerates that, because of the way that it mass produces it, but also because of the way that it actually moves through boundaries so quickly. And it actually doesn't even respect them or doesn't need to. It deterritorializes all of those things. It reveals how vulnerable we are and whether or not we have control over the images and objects that we ourselves produce. I think we do, just like we control our bodies to a certain extent to a virus or a cold, but at a certain level, I also think that AI technology is in and of itself, it can be seen as a plague. And particularly in society, it can be a plague that affects our minds in a way that we don't always even kind of see on the surface. It's the same thing with the automaton. Like once we start making things almost automatic, what kind of work is our brain not doing to process why a piece of art or why something was made the way that it was? We actually even take it for granted. And I think like an RNA, like COVID, the way that it actually takes part of a DNA sequence and it messes with it, right, inside of a cell. Like I also think that AI does that by necessity, right? It feeds off of, and it's almost like a what do we call it? Not a symbiote, but a parasite. It kind of takes in and it actually absorbs ideas that human beings have and then does a bunch of other things with it. So, I mean, even almost logically, I think it operates like a plague, very much like a virus, but certainly even politically and socially like a plague. Yeah. Where were you thinking when you wanted me to think of this card?
So I thought about music and I thought about Napster. So, Lars Ulrich, Metallica, was like, this is a disease, a contagion to our industry, and it needs to be stopped. But then when's the point that the ecosystem of a market or a profession, when does the contagion, have to be accepted? Because, think of someone that has to have a pacemaker. You have to one day get to the point where you have to accept it. So when you accept it, and you understand your environment, like how do you as an artist or person evolve to it? And because ignorance is the worst thing. If you're ignorant to something that is a powerful force in what you're doing, then you are denying your moving forward toward, like, in your arrow desire to where you're going. You're going blindly through it. So that's what I was thinking about.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, the music industry was displaced by that moment, right? It was totally displaced. It had to actually now reconstitute itself, and now we have what we have. We have Spotify, we have intellectual property rights. It's not about volume of sales. Nobody will ever hit. Not as many artists are going to hit diamond, in terms of sales for physical albums as much as they will streams, right? And so, yeah, this totally actually reconstituted the body once it accepted it. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. All right, well then I'm going to push back with you. I'm going to move to, let me see here. Challenge is the gyroscope.
So this was the one I was hoping you weren't going to pick. Wow. It's weird how earlier you went to the Leviathan, like in roundtable mode, because that was like where we're going to end up, like under devilifying the idea of it, or shedding light on it. And now we're going to the gyroscope. Okay. Let me read it first.
Yeah.
Let's
do it. Oops, this is the labyrinth and obelisks. My bad. There we go. All things require energy.
Okay.
Even when we're trying to stand still, it would seem that we're in a world of constant motion. And maybe that's why we obsess over words such as progress.
Always built. Is it a forward momentum? I mean, that's what the question I'm asking. Is it? And nothing really is the answer to the next step. There's always nothing is ever intended as it is made. So when thinking of text to image generation or AI generated images, you can't necessarily think of it as this overwhelming answer to everything, because every client, every concept isn't going to fully come out. But again, it is a tool that will facilitate making those reference images and then sort of taking pieces from them and allowing your personal experience and your personal execution of technique to then illustrate this wonderful idea.
I agree.
And let me read what role does abundance play in our thinking? Are we forced to think about scarcity when in fact there is abundant resources available to us? What does it mean to be resourceful in a time of need? No, I think that's all I have to say with it. Unless but I would like for you to interject.
No, I mean, I think we were careful in the wording of the first prompt. It would seem, I put, that we are in a world of constant motion. And that's the illusion, right? That the gyroscope has to be moving forward. It doesn't. I mean, there's any number of moments. The exercise at the very bottom kind of exemplifies that. Like, think of a moment when slowing down had value. Like we're AI generated images are fine, but you know what? We're still gonna put up that crayon piece of paper that my niece gave me last week, and we're still gonna put it proudly on the refrigerator. And some of us are gonna put it on the mantle, and some of us are gonna burn it because some of us are jerks. But I mean, all the way around, I mean, we're never gonna get rid of that. And in fact, we really have in our all economy also includes the production of slowing down. I spend a lot of money taking time for myself. I mean, it takes a lot of energy for me to slow down. And that's actually part of the economy as well. Actually, a lot of people are weirded out by COVID because they assume that COVID was going to equal recession. And the economist had in me was like, not really, because there was a market for chilling out. There was a market for slowing down, and that market actually thrived massively. And so, why would we assume that when everything at the market level, the flat space of living life, everything has a market in it? Now, I'm not saying that that's fantastic, but it could actually be even kind of the market for preserving sacred things, or the market for keeping things beautiful at a certain level. And I do think that, I see an AI generated image, I might be like, wow, that's fantastic. That blew my mind. And I'm still going to go buy stuff from you and from my woodworker friend. And handmade watches are still going to be a passion of mine. And I don't care how many different technological instruments can tell me how to tell time. They're not going to be able to tell a story in the way that also very beautiful trajectory is going. And so there's no forward, it's a sphere. It's going infinitely in all sorts of different directions. And so that's the part of the gyroscope everybody forgets. We all think of the energy going linear, but we don't realize that machine in and of itself it's going in a sphere. It's going in all directions at once. So that's one of the reasons I love this card.
And it brings up that something that is desirable has to have a level of soul to it. And if it just doesn't have soul, it's something the consumer can feel and know.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not necessarily scared of it.
No, nor I. It's just another thing. I remember, and those in the audience don't know, but many of you might, but I love watchmaking. I have been an amateur watchmaker for now 15 years. And people would always ask me when the Apple Watch came out, is this the end of the mechanical watch? And I'm like, absolutely not. And in fact, watchmaking and even the vintage market for watchmaking, thrived massively in response to that. Right? It's just it was a response mechanism to the thing itself. So I actually even see creative and craft work and art thriving in response to this new development in machine learning. So I'm kind of fired up about where it's going to go, and I remain hopeful. And that's actually one of the reasons I like 2023 is that actually conversations with people like Michael always make me feel positive about the world, even when there's something that we could always characterize as scary or ominous. I have very little dread when I'm in conversations with people I know are using their hearts and minds in sync. So Michael, it's been, we touched the surface. And for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, do us a favor, do us a solid and buy a deck of cards. Inquire about us, visit terraprime.com. We want you to participate and even put comments in the chat about the conversation we had, because we weren't comprehensive about this. We just got started in a new and unique way, and the two of us would probably have a very different conversation even a month from now using these cards. So that's the joy and beauty of conversation. And thanks for taking a trip with us on Terra Prime. Michael, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in person. Happy New Year. You are awesome. And do you have any parting words for anybody as we move into 2023?
Have a really good time. It's gonna be fun. And I have been using Terra Prime. Well, leading up to this, I did an amount of studying. I watched your interview with Riley and Thomas, and just sort of really got the feel. And Thomas was definitely the more vulnerable. Oh, Patrick, excuse me.
No.
Patrick was definitely the more vulnerable person who, wore his heart on his sleeve for the state. And really, that's, if you're New Mexican, that's probably the best one to watch for sure. But went through studying, and then I tried a few different topics, and the text to image generation was definitely the more hot topic. So I kind of went through the cards, but with each topic I would kind of go through each card and sort of give a think about. So if you're willing to, if you have a problem or a topic and you're willing to sit down with yourself or a group of people, this is an absolutely amazing tool with getting outside of the box of your own perspective to then get new perspectives on an idea or topic.
I appreciate that, Michael. So on that note, thank you for joining Terra Prime. We're dedicated to beauty and knowledge, and we know that there's knowledge in beauty. So we wish you that for 2023. Thank you so much.